Before we go into discussing in earnest the 10 policy choices paper that we've given you, that you've read, I hope, by now, and we've got specific recommendations that relate to our conversation around digitalization. But before I do that, we have a lovely man, like, provide an discussion that we have as an idea sharer. So the Tao of imagination. Chen, over to you. Yeah, speak.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay.
And you'll have to bring it closer to you.
Okay. Thanks for having me. So as a science fiction writer from China, I'm thrilled and more nervous to talk about politics or any social contracts here. But at least one thing I can talk about is the imagination of the future. So bear with me. Before that, please allow me to draw your gaze backward before we look forward. So this is a series of French postcards from the year 19,000 with a vision of the year 2000. The main stands behind a hulking machine meant to tidy the room with all the grace of an elephant performing ballet. Obviously, they couldn't foresee Wi-Fi or Roomba in 100 years ago. And now we have the future of warfare, like the French Balloon Air Force cannon at the ready lock at the battle with a seafaring battleship below. But it's inspired, driven, would captivate the heart of steampunk fans, but it totally missed the silence, precision of drones, and the digital warfare of cyber attacks. And last, we have an image that children in school kept wired in their skull, downloading knowledge from books fed into a mechanical grinder. But here we are in the world where information is at our fingertips. And the challenge is not the speed of acquisition, but the wisdom to navigate vast sea of data. So these images serve as a cautionary triptych of our imaginative limits that echoes from the past that, with technological quaint, must remind us of a boundary we face when dreaming of tomorrow. So, by the keen insight of Amara's law states that we intend to overestimate the effects of a technology in the short term and underestimate the effect in the long term. Herein lies a fundamental cognitive asymmetry. The linear versus nonlinear, the short term against the long term, the familiar self in opposite to the exchange others. So all these binaries stands in our decisions, a world of imbalances that shape our vision and strategy. So considering the anthropomorphization of technology, our innate tendency to bestow our creation with human attributes, we build robots and AI to mimic our form and functions. Yet in this reflection act, we risk escalating the vast spectrum of non-human intelligence that strive around us. So the flaw in our consciousness, the weakness, is not merely a philosophical musing, it shapes the society we build, the policies we enact, and the futures we dream. And when these limitations are not just inherent, but deliberately manipulated and amplified by technology, by consequences can be dire. We're surrounded by algorithms that reinforce our bias, social media and magnified our egos, and information silos that echoes our narrowest view back at us, and that's what I call the making of algorithmic slavery. So we must confront an unsettling divisions, the cognitive gap which not only persists but widen, becoming a chasm divided along the fault lines of class, language, identity, and belief. This gap does not merely separate, it polarized, creating echo chambers of ideology and fortresses of conviction that are impervious to the breach of dialogue. So the narrative births from these divisions are not idle tales, they are the front lines of a modern farewell. One fought not with cannons and balloons, but with tweets and sound bites. In this warfare, an image, a phrase, a carefully crafted story can wield power to rally supporters or demonize opponents. Considering the hashtags that become battle cries, the viral misinformation campaigns that shift elections, or the deep fake that sow distrust. These are the weapons of narrative warfare, sharpened on the whetstone of cognitive gaps. In such a war, the global cooperation necessary to address existential challenges we face becomes not just difficult, but perhaps impossible. The ultimate tragedy, the specter that haunts our every decision, is the potential for planetary collapse. It is not the scene from a dystopian novel, it's the very real tableau of our current time. So climate change, now at the age of a continent melting ice and kindling wildfire, species vanish, leaving behind a silence. And at the heart of it all is the polarization and conflicts of human values, the rift that turns potential allies into adversaries, collaboration into zero-sum competition, the doomsday clock that reflects our self-destruction ticks ever close to midnight. So is there any antidote we can take to detoxicate our civilization? The answer might not be as absurd as it sounds. So in weaving the rich tapestry of our future, let us considering the Taoist philosophy and its profound symbolism of water, an element that is soft yet strong, yielding yet persistent, the art of wu wei, or effortless action, which encourage a form of being that flow in accordance with the nature order of things. Much like water carves its path not through force, but through its persistent, gentle touch. This philosophy can profoundly inform the cultivation of our imagination, just as water coexists with all encounters, nurturing plants, shaping landscapes, and adapting to containers. Our imagination also practices in our creative endeavors, whether in art, literature, technology, or governance. We must allow our imagination to flow around the obstacles and traditional thinking, to find new passages like rivulets in rock, and to settle and expand like pools in the valley, and a new social contract might emerge. To imagine a new kind of social contract, we must begin by cultivating a profound compassion for diverse values. This is not merely tolerance, but an active engagement of human beliefs, tradition. Compassion in the context becomes the misunderstanding that fuel our narrative warfare by fostering an environment where device values are not just acknowledged but celebrated. We open the door to previously unimaginable solutions to our planetary crisis. Value-led investment and policy making becomes a must. To imagine a new kind of social contract, we must accept that humans will not be the only intelligent species of the planet. This Copernican revolution of anthropocentric perspective not only allows us to create a more inclusive and holistic modeling of the complex ecosystem, also encouraging a symbiotic existence rather than a zero-sum game, brutal social Darwinism, and a hierarchical oppression of others. An AI with such a philosophy would be designed not to dominate but to support and enhance the natural flow of human progress and environmental balance. It would learn to be water, to adapt and change shape as needed, to cleanse and to give life rather than to control or to take. This harmonious AI could assist us in crafting solutions that transcend by binary thinking, helping to dismantle the destructive hierarchies that have plagued our species for long. To imagine a new kind of social contract, our consensus must root it in the reality that our fates are intertwined, that the well-being of one is inseparably linked to the well-being of all. Not in my backyard principle would never be an option. We must imagine a world where green policy are not seen as sacrifice, but as investment in our collective future. As opportunities for innovation and growth, this new social contract will prioritize green initiatives at the policy level, incentive sustainable practice in business and industry, and cultivate a culture that values environmental stewardship as a fundamental civic duty. Also as the cornerstone of education, teaching our children not just the science of sustainability, but the philosophy of it, by fostering a generation not only understand the importance of a green society, but also feels its intrinsic value. Our tools are not just the hard science of ecology, policies, and economics, but also the soft power of art, literature, and philosophy, which can touch hearts and change minds. As a storyteller, my conviction runs deep, and through tales spun in works like Waste Tide, a novel about electronic waste crisis and climate inequality in China, and AI 2041, 10 Visions for Our Future, a mix of fiction and nonfiction about human AI symbiosis society from a global perspective, I actively craft this belief into existence. So the Tao of imagination is not a passive daydream. It's an active force, a way of being that can lead us towards a more enlightened existence by embracing compassion for diverse values, championing the coexistence of all beings, and forging a new consensus for a green society. We align ourselves with the profound wisdom of the Gaia hypothesis. It would be a contract that recognizes the Earth as the living, complex system, whose health is inseparable from our own. Signed with the ink of our highest aspiration for the planet and all its inhabitants, we become not just stewards of Earth, but part of its consciousness, a planetary intelligence that can guide us towards a future where the survival of one is the success of all. So please allow me to close with a lyric from John Lennon's Imagine. You may say I'm a dreamer, but I'm not the only one. I hope someday you will join us and the world will live as one. Thank you. Thank you so much.